I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A roll call. Councilmember Bump, here. Councilmember Kimberly Baker. Councilmember Happy, here. Councilmember Keller. Councilmember Seeger. Here. Councilmember Pruitt. Here. Mayor Wood. Here. Budget Committee Member Cramlett. Here. Budget Committee Members Wanziger. Budget Committee Member Kyleman. Here. Budget Committee Member Jones. Budget Committee Member Batashio. Here. Budget Committee Member Miller.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Price. Here. We have the motion, the minutes, we're on the table when we got here. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
And I know the budget meeting minutes from before 2005.
One second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, passes. Are we gonna have anybody come and talk about their budgets tonight?
No.
Okay. So I figured. We probably, since we've got a new budget in front of us, we'll just go through each tab again and just go through and discuss. Courtney.
I don't know what the appropriate time to bring this up is, but at some point I do have a couple of questions about, the page titled City of Cascade Locks fiscal year 2025-2026 budget message.
Okay. That's in tab what?
That one,
Well, why don't you go ahead and ask your questions and then we can.
on page 3, third paragraph. Last sentence, these can be spread out, allow staff to focus on long-term plans and growth and not constantly putting out fires. Well, I appreciate common colloquialisms. I don't necessarily think about putting out fires. I don't know how appropriate that is. It just kind of struck the chord with me. And I might be the only one, and that's fine. And the other one is in paragraph 4. Talking about emergency medical services, this is a blessing and a curse. I feel like maybe you could use different colloquialism if that's what direction we wanted to go in and call it EMS a curse. So.
Yeah, and. Yep. Doesn't the budget work give guidance on what should be in the budget message? I mean, it should talk about, I'm pretty sure it does, but we can talk about that later. Yeah. We can talk about that later. Also, we never decided on the approval of property that, I mean, not that we have property tax, but the possible uses of state revenue sharing. Should we do that at the end? Is. You've had a hearing about it.
Yeah.
We had a hearing, but we never, because we usually determine where it's gonna go, or is it just gonna go where you said it was gonna go? Which was,
I mean, it's up to you all. But yeah, typically it's just the hearing. I don't think there's a specific vote on it. At least I don't recall one.
I mean, like some years it goes for one thing, some years it goes for something else, sure.
I think we've always just kind of kept it the same because there hasn't been another suggestion or need that can go through rounds. And I think the reason it was brought up before is because Councilmember Cedar looking for additional funding options for the enforcement officer, they did that back in the budget. And that's what it was brought up. Did we end up putting the enforcement officer in the general fund?
Yes.
Yes.
In this updated one, yeah.
So I'm not sure if there was, I think that was the purpose of talking about where that was going, maybe redirecting those. That revenue.
Okay, so Jordan, you know what the use is, I can't even find that. I can't even find that page. Those specific uses, I mean, now, some of it was for the 911.
It was $12,000. 5 of it was for community support, 3 for the sewer subsidy for seniors, 3 for low income energy, and 1 for the reverse 911 program.
Good with that.
Pretty standard.
That's what it's been every year that I've been here at least.
Okay, so. Go ahead, Connie.
How many hours did you give the enforcement officer this time?
20 hours.
And how many did she have last time?
It was a seasonal position, 16 hours a week, and it was only 7 months of the year. So it was really a casual position. So now we're able to actually commit to 20 hours year round plus actual funds for abatement.
20 hours a week?
Yeah, 20 a week. Yes. Yeah. So it's a true part-time, half-time position. Y'all need to like shift that.
Do we have an extra packet so that I can know where to tell people to go, because the packet was different than what's in that bulletin.
One of these?
What's in the book?
I got that, I'm gonna do both, I need one in order to be able to do the other, I got it. Okay, so I figured since everything's been redone, we'll just go from the beginning and go through the end, discuss the changes, and hopefully get this thing done tonight or tomorrow, because I think we can do it. Yeah, well, I think. And then next year, we're starting earlier, right?
Yes,
Jordan,
yep.
Please, because this is like, we're pushed up against too many times constraints. Yes, Pete, quick.
Question, I'm trying to get these new version into my
I know.
binder. And I noticed that we got the street fund on one side, and then we got fire and EMS on the
I
other.
know, that's why. Can I request that they be printed up single side?
Yeah.
Next, because that's how we have them in the book, and we can't. When we get new ones like this, we can't put them in the book, so that's why I'm not this, we'll follow, I will just go. We'll just go one at a time,
Okay.
which. Yeah, so sorry. So, the order we have it is electric fund is first because it was the biggest. The biggest,
Going on to electric now?
I guess, so we. Or are we gonna? Yeah,
Well, yeah, all funds, but then you go next week. Next sheet is general.
Yeah, so the new packet goes in order of fund number. Not the original intended order with the book.
okay. We should probably go over all, we do all
I
funds
would-
last, huh? All funds last? I'm sorry, everything's on this right now. Should we just do all funds?
No, we don't do all funds. We do each
Yeah.
individual
Yep.
fund.
Yep.
Is what we do.
Or put that aside.
I'm sorry, but see, all the packets there we got is by
Yeah,
fund one is
The
first.
worksheet general fund is the third actual page.
okay, well, we're gonna start with electric, which is Fund 51, and they'll have to look in the. It'll be probably toward the back of the packet because it's in the back of your, it's in the back. And for those of us still using the book. That's going to be tab 7. Okay, you didn't close several. Okay. You got 51? Yes, Fund 51. Okay, is everybody at?
Top bank, you want the regular.
You don't have. There you go. Okay, so Fund 51. Do you want to discuss the changes you made, Jordan? Or you just wanna go on?
So, yeah, per the instructions, I added the lineman and working foreman. As well as utilities director, since that decision was split, I wanted to game out that position. In terms of expenditures, I did cut back some expenditures to make all of those work. The biggest one was,
Yes.
what's that?
Contract services.
Well, yeah, was contract services as well as one of the loans will not be completed for payment to start this fiscal year, so I pushed that back out of this budget year. And then I cut back on some capital outlay, but the biggest item is miscellaneous contract services, really to the bare minimum for vegetation management, as if we have a full crew, they would actually do the lineman work, and we won't need to contract that out.
So a lot on the, also on the personnel services, all those numbers, age, yeah. Question,
Why did you lower the utilities director in electric when they are the main reason we're doing this?
no, I thought it was someone else.
Not the, I mean, they're gonna cover all of the
But
departments.
why did you drop and increase property who has no money to pay for this, and it comes out of the general fund? And what does property have to do with, other than being part of public works?
This,
I think property
this,
should
this
have-
building that's falling apart that needs to be taken care of.
I understand that, but property doesn't have money. They don't make anything.
Agreed.
It's just my opinion. I just don't see why you cut back on the electrical part.
I used the city property, I thought it got updated, it looks like it's the same amount.
No, I updated it.
It's updated.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, what are you saying?
Okay, you're looking at the, you have to look.
No, I whole bunch, I put it in here, and it says, 225.26, use of city property, 9,360, is that not?
No, that's not what we're talking about. I'm sorry, we're talking about the utilities director.
No,
that
no, no,
was in
No,
the-
I know, I understand, but I was actually switching gears, cause I was talking about the rent of the use of city property, the rental rate for what we're charging the department.
No, it's up to 14,000 for city light.
And
Okay,
how did we
hold on,
come up with that rate?
yeah, it is, stand, it's right here.
Where do you guys?
Down on the bottom of the page, the first,
I'm sure it's that.
on the first page,
Yeah,
Go back.
this is the long page.
go back,
I'm sorry, guys.
so that's all right, it's
Use of city properties now. And it went from.
9,300,
It's now.
14,000.
Okay.
14,000.
And, what did you use for the comp on that? What was-
$1. That's what I got from the port, was $1.
They're charging $1.
Correct, yep. Got another comp, for Bike the Gorge, their small office they had next to Buddy's Barcade. Their rent was actually $2 per square foot, which seemed a little excessive.
Rates.
Yeah, and given kind of what the departments would need, it would, if they went anywhere, it would be a facility similar to what the port has.
Yeah,
So I went with the $1.
I think it also makes sense because, you know, the bigger it is, the price is gonna go down.
Yeah, and so what I did is their space downstairs, I took the square footage of that entire area, including their garage, and times that by $1 per month, and then times it by 12.
I think, thank you for doing that. I mean, it's not quite apples to apples, because if we do get booted out of the space, man, to go to the court, you're gonna have to pay triple net expenses on
And
top of that.
And all of our buildings are booked, so I really don't know where we would go.
But I think it's a little bit more comparable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bernard. So regarding use of property, I agree this is a good step forward. But I'd like to think next year we fine tune this a little more.
Yep.
And take into consideration some of the things that Mr. Happy mentioned. Regarding the allocation of the utilities director. I support this this addition of property because of the work that's needed on this building. I acknowledge that property doesn't have a lot of funds, but we're not asking for property to necessarily, submit, $1 million budget to build a new building. We're asking for some leadership and administrative, capacity to do the planning, to start the planning process on replacing this facility. And I think that's a perfect, portion of this person's job to take on. So I think that's a reasonable solution. Just to be clear, I'm always gonna have a bias. Where's the money? The money is with the utilities and property doesn't have. So, I feel that pull, but I also feel like it's not an inaccurate assessment to say, no, they should be paying, given what I would like to think this person's gonna work on beyond water, sewer, electricity, is planning for this, our new facility. So that's just.
Yeah, and I will have this person, assuming it's approved, do their best to kind of track their time. I know it'll flux year to year, but look at a good general idea of really where they are spending their time. And adjust it from there.
Ralph,
I was a little late again to be asking this question, but I'm curious, why the utilities director isn't funded out of the general, isn't part of the admin group? They're specifically funded in each enterprise fund, is that?
Because that'll be their main function, is overseeing the enterprise funds. And then a small sliver will be property, which is general fund.
Gordon,
Can you help explain me this difference column on here?
Okay, so that is the difference between what was budgeted last year and what is now in the last column, which is the adopted one, which hopefully will be adopted.
So it's got nothing to do with what was printed out in our binder versus what's being shown here.
Correct. So what was in the binder, that's when it was connected to the proposed column. Now it's connected to the adopted column.
Okay.
Yes.
yeah. Okay, let's go to the next page of the elected department, which. So I know okay, wait a minute, I wanna go back to the previous one, why did we have more income? I mean. On the residential sales and in the commercial sales, because already you kind of bumped it up from, well, I guess not.
No, there.
Is that is that a confident number that we,
Yes.
Yes. And there's like money beyond that, that you think we're gonna get more than this amount?
This is pretty darn close to actuals that we've received over the last year.
So there's not gonna be a lot of.
Not a huge, and we could get more of the houses online, but no, this is pretty close to what I actually expect to receive.
And is that scary?
It's reality.
Usually my experience with budget is that we underscore the sales and overscore the costs. And when you're cutting them, like everything's so close, it's kind of it takes one bad storm or one bad bill, it's gonna put everything completely out of kilter. So
the math I've done is that this is a conservative forecast for both revenues and expenditures when it comes to power. The reason I say that is and I think, I'm not sure if we looked at that together, but our actual power purchase in the budget year that closed 24 was 874. I'm sorry, was 824. Okay. And then in that same budget year, from commercial and residential, we pulled in about 2.88.
What page are you looking at?
This is the first page of electric.
And what place?
So go down to equipment, material and services, and go to 24 on the 24 actual, go down to purchase power. See that 824?
Second from the bottom.
Second from the bottom, all right.
Okay, and then now go back up to residential and commercial sales. The two of those numbers added together equal about 2.85 million. Okay, so if you do a ratio of purchase power to sales, to residential sales for actuals, you'll get for $1 of every purchase power, we generate about $3.60 in sales. Okay, now look at our proposed. We're proposing 2 million purchase. See that?
Yes.
We went from 824 to 2 million purchase, but look at our revenue. Our revenue didn't go from 2.8 to 5.8. The revenue is still at almost a little under 3. So you see that? So we've got a big. We're anticipating a very large purchase power forecast, but the revenue is much lower on purchase power per dollar to sale of power. So I feel very comfortable about these forecasts. I'm not worried at all.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
On your actuals, I mean, what date did you use on your actuals? Because some of these are actually the end of March. And.
I'm using the close of the 23-24 budget. year.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay.
I don't know where it went.
Yeah, you should have put him in the bind.
I know, I don't have everybody's here. I'm totally lost, so maybe it's my done with you, but it too. Yeah,
Yeah, I think,
Can run another set.
yeah, can we just?
Do we have another,
not to single
copy?
sided,
I thought we had
because
another
this is
copy.
gonna be like really difficult. I mean.
sorry.
And it's up there as well. Were you showing it up there?
Yeah, I have it up here, yeah.
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 Here, Ken.
You got an extra copy?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, we're good. Thanks. I'm just gonna put this away and focus on this. Thank you.
That's why I quit doing it, cause it's,
Yeah.
I got a few in there and decided it's not gonna work.
Now it's sequential, so
Okay,
50 wanted the back and general fund
Yeah, yeah.
wanted the front, so
Yeah.
y'all go down.
yeah, okay, so the.
Alright, so that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, second page of the electric funds.
I'm good. Thanks.
Not a lot of change, material services total went down. 100,000-ish, or 40,000-ish. And just kind of nickel and diming, right?
Correct, yep.
Any questions on that one? Okay, then, South Bank. Okay, I still have a question on South Bank. Why are we predicting more sales for City Light and not for South Bank? I don't understand why we didn't carry the same optimistic,
Because there's no growth in South Bank.
but the rates are going up, right?
Minimal amount, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, but they don't have the customers, we've got customer growth here.
Yeah.
We're the same, no development out there, so that doesn't surprise me.
And then again, personnel expenses all, most numbers changed. Jordan, you wanna explain that on the personnel expenses?
Yeah, so added the working foreman is the biggest change to that, is the addition of the working foreman within the personnel expenses. I also slightly increased overtime. Overtime rate would be based off 2 linemen being an overtime instead of a lineman and the groundman, so the average per hour went up, and I slightly put the standby time down. I'm gonna work with the linemen and actually cut the amount of standby time we use. Derek's been on standby constantly for the entire 2.5 years I've been here, but obviously weather like this, there really isn't need to have somebody on standby. So kind of create that schedule to where we can have save some money and give people some time off.
And then in the contract services again, you went.
Yeah, cut it back to where it's just vegetation management.
Any questions?
Okay, so between the two companies, between South Bank and regular City Light, the total for contract services is what now? You got 48 on South Bank, and how much is for the other one?
Was 36,
Yeah, 48 and 36.
Okay.
so that'd be
80 something.
and 4.
Okay.
Tom,
So a question on what triggers going after them during the lineman performance money in a big event. So we have a big event, we need the contract labor. And we don't have the money to contract labor, and we haven't got the lineman yet. So I still more.
We would just have to
We're
adjust.
going after their pocket of money.
Correct. We just
And so after that, we don't go after a lineman.
no, we'd adjust the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to come in and adjust the budget. There is that kind of gray, weird wiggle area between we get somebody hired and still having to have contract crews.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions on that?
Just one real quick question, just for my understanding, how do you allocate labor between South Bank and City Light? Since we know that it takes more to maintain South Bank than it does.
It's typically been I mean, unless they know what, if they're out there all week on South Bank, they'll put it towards South Bank. But typically the way the budget is put is 80% is city, 20% South Bank.
It's just a random, I mean.
Yeah.
How do we come up with that 80%?
The formula that was there when I started.
And then the last page on South Bank, not really much has changed. So I did notice that on the OTIB loan that the person, the principal got switched. Is that a correction?
Yes. Yep.
Any more questions on the electric department? Okay. So next one would be the general fund, which for those using the will be fund one, so it should be in front of your new packet. So again, higher use of city property fees. And lower or no higher, well, no, kind of flip flopping a lot on the overhead revenue.
It's higher in materials and services.
And then
It's higher in both of them.
I'm up on the arms.
Totals, I mean.
Oh, yeah, totals, but some are like. It's waters not. And sewer admin personnel is not, but, well, yeah, that one, no, that some of them don't have them, so. Anything you wanna say, sir?
No. Just most staff got a 2.8% COLA increase. Or are we just looking at revenue?
We were looking at revenue.
Just revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this before, maybe not. It was in other conversations. Property tax, our assessed value went up $10 million from last year, this year, which resulted in an extra $27,000 to the city. That's a good chunk of an increase, but other than that, it's relatively the same. Let's see here. Yeah.
Just a comment on the interfund transfers, it still shows 5%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you update that?
Yeah, thank you. I just thought I highlighted.
Internal payments, sorry.
Yep.
It's be politically correct, what I think. Yeah, and then Marianne, did you have your hand up? No, okay. Any more questions on that page? Let's go to the second page. Fund one. Well, I saw, okay, of course, we added the community liaison back
Yep.
in there.
That's the biggest item, yeah.
And where did we get the money for that? Get that out?
So we did have a pretty healthy contingency that was set aside in the original draft. And then with adding the positions to electric, it actually puts more money in the administrative overhead fee that goes to general fund. As well as the use of property, that slight increase as well.
We went back to internet franchise fee.
On page one, are we on page one, revenue? Okay.
It looks like on our proposed, there was nothing, and on our adopted, it's now 2,000.
I just plain forgot to add it into the spreadsheet. Yep,
What were you, which one was it?
Internet franchise fee.
yep. That was in an oversight on my end and the proposed. Yeah.
Which we saw collected, correct?
Correct. There's, It's in process. We're not the only cities they're not paying, so.
And so, any questions on page 2 of general fund? Okay.
And I'll give it to you.
I think,
You should. Story.
Connie, would it be easier if you had it one-sided? Would it be?
01301. Put you on looking.
I think we're just gonna get me. Right here.
Yeah, usually. I see it. Proposed. Back on. Census.
Yeah, I expect page 3 of the general fund 1.
I've got a question, so,
Are on page 3 or on page 3? Or on
wait, that's the 3, now this page 1 of the.
page 4?
No.
Okay, what, yeah, I guess we didn't really cover page 1, but
This is the personnel expense.
we really do need page numbers on here. Doors next there, please. Third page number, yeah, please. This is like painful.
All right,
So you're
on general fund personnel expenses.
first.
What's the rest?
So we're back on the, we haven't moved on, okay.
Oh, you guys still on revenue?
No.
No.
Okay. I thought we were moving on, but go ahead.
Okay, so I asked this in an email, but we hired the finance officer at what, 90,000? Is that right? I can't remember we hired that.
Correct.
Okay. And now it shows a budget of 100. That's not a whole level. Why, how is that going up from 90 to 100?
That was the agreed upon hiring. When we hired them, that's what they asked for. And given the market, I was more than happy to do it.
So they've got a step and a COLA that's gonna take them to 100
Correct.
due to this budget. year.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, anything else on the general fund personnel expenses page? Okay. Can we move on to the next page, which starts with planning at the top of the page? And in this one, under property, we have the abatement, 30,000, why did we come up with that? What did we come up with that?
Again, the additional money through the overhead fee.
So we're gonna raise $50,000.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a good chunk that comes out of by adding the working foreman. It adds a good chunk onto the overhead fee for personnel.
And transferred EMS down farther, and the interfund transfer expenses went down some. Went down, what, 7?
Correct. As those ratios change, it did go down slightly. Yeah, I mean, it's
just a combination of those, that number, 2,000. Well, transfer to other funds, where is that money going?
it's all going to fire. 275 is additional on top, and then the remainder is the cover of their admin fee. So we give them the 42% of property tax, an additional 275 to cover their salary increases, and then the rest to cover admin fee.
Okay.
Property tax plus what was the other one?
So I guess that 492 does include the property tax. That's a separate line. The third, that other line down there, but it's an even 275,000 plus covering admin fee is what that 492 is.
So emergency services is getting.
They're getting all their admin overhead back.
Oh, okay,
What they're getting. They don't pay anything.
sorry, any more?
And then just so I'm clear, the police service contract for next year. includes that back payment.
Correct.
Settling up.
Yep, the 11,000 in back
What,
pay.
if you didn't have the back payment, what would be the total amount?
159, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's $11,000 each year.
For how many years?
Yeah, 2 years. So it's $11,000 for the next 2 years.
Okay, we didn't make a payment this year.
No, it starts with this upcoming fiscal year.
Anything else? Okay, we're good. Pass these on. Okay, so Fund 5 or tab 6. Wherever you are.
System development charges, right? Oh, Fund 5?
Yeah, why are we?
Fire and EMS,
Tab 6, you said?
yes.
Maybe I put it on the
Spot.
spot.
You figured in the wrong spot.
That's what was there.
That's Steve now. Fund.
That's what was on tab
yes,
6.
Tab,
6.
tab,
No, you're behind tab 7.
oh, I'm sorry, tab 9. I'm sorry, tab 9, tab 9.
Which is.
I did this last night, I'm so confused. Okay, tab 9 is fire and EMS.
Okay.
Tab, okay, Fund 5 or tab 9.
Got it.
Got it, clear as mud.
Okay, 10, I'm gonna get back with it.
Okay, so anything in this one you wanna explain?
No, I mean, it's the exact same thing we reviewed when Chief Logan was here 2 weeks ago. The admin fee number changes, but it's covered by general fund.
Yeah. Can we possibly change the contract service Springfield to the proper name? We don't even use Springfield anymore, we use.
Tactical.
Tactical.
Yep.
And there was a number that we used for tactical because we had to keep them both on the books. So I don't know how your funds are commingled, but they are. So, but we don't use Springfield anymore.
And then, like I said 2 weeks ago, biggest thing for this budget is it now gets all of the fire and EMS staff up to a competitive wage.
And it's not a question, it's just a comment, to remark that. At the close of the 2024 budget year. Our budget was 562, and now we're at 1.02. So we've almost doubled that budget. And that is extraordinary. The city has really stepped up to fire EMS. You know, if I ever have to campaign again, I'm gonna show them a number like this. We care about fire EMS and our budget shows it. So it really is remarkable what this city's done in, 2 years, 2+ years. So I'm very proud of that number and, you have a lot to be proud of. It's amazing.
On page 2, there was no changes. There is a number missing though, and then it doesn't elect a number there. On the maintenance agreement review.
05405 is listening.
Yeah. Just, have that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. No questions? No, we lost, there's page, okay. All right. Sewer is next, which is. 10 and Fund 31.
So again, we went over this with Sheldon last week. Hasn't really changed anything. The biggest question, well, I take that back. The 2018 sewer bond refinance is now being paid via reserves instead of operating revenue. And then the biggest question was whether reserves could be paid or could be used to pay for operating expenses. I did reach out to Attorney Cleveland. I put in front of you all his response, and of course, as all attorneys are, gave a fantastic gray answer. It all depends on how you interpret those words. facilities, system, vehicle, and equipment. And if they're tied to those following two words, replace and upgrade. So is it replace and upgrade only of those four, or are those separate on how the fund is viewed, where facilities and systems, the operation of them, can be funded by reserves? He recommends whatever decision we make, we clarify it in the resolution.
I just wanna point out that the whole point of capital reserve is to set money aside for capital items as mowers, trucks, whatever you need, not operations. And that's all I have to say, and I think it's wrong that we use it for operations.
And some, so health insurance went up 2,000. Is that? Yeah, why? Probably for the utility director.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then, the city property, of course, went up, and then miscellaneous and legal expenses went down. Is there a reason why? Or-
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at water.
What?
I get 31 and 21 mixed up. So we actually budgeted 15,000 last year. We knew a fine was coming and we were guessing 15,000 and we were pretty darn close. It was 14,700. We haven't had any other violations. I don't expect a fine to come to the city from DEQ this year. I'm keeping 8,000 in there just in case. But I don't expect us to get any fines. I haven't got any notices of a possible fine since that one was paid this current fiscal year.
Questions on that? And then on the second page, it's just, you drop the high pressure jet cleaner.
Why?
I mean, I talked to Sheldon. I just don't see us buying it this year, and we've kind of had it as a placeholder in the budget, but I don't see us purchasing it this year. So it didn't need to be in there.
And, and then you bump up contingency a little.
Yes.
Any questions? Nope.
Well, the only thing I wanna point out in this one is that beginning balance is 0, so. And there's a good chance we have a beginning balance, but we're being very conservative and putting a 0
Yep.
right there. So, we'll see, but. You know.
You have a paper jam. Okay, so, no questions on sewer, fund 31? Okay, go on to tab 11, which is fund 2, which had, what I think is,
Yeah, that one is, again, it's a placeholder. The income all depends on what's built within the city. That's SDC, right?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we never know what's gonna be built. Any revenue we get, fantastic. And the expenses are meant for capital projects or the development of master plans. None of that is really planned at the moment. So again, it's a giant placeholder.
Okay, tab 12 or fund 3 with the streets.
Can I ask one question? Sorry.
That's okay, back to SBC.
So, there's not an electric SDC.
There's not, no.
Why is that?
That's a good question. I do not know.
I think you'd have to ask Kathy because these were set up prior to anything else. I don't know if SPC can be set up for electric, if the law allows it.
Yeah, I'd have to research it. I don't know.
Okay, I know you got a lot on Dave's plate, but I'm interested in that.
Yeah,
Again, it speaks to capital, it's. We've got 94 grand in our sewer. We could spend, potentially if the revenue can we have 94 grand, in system development charter. To spend on. You know, capital planning and things like that. If we could create another pot of money for citywide, do planning for like an underground. Then I think we should be getting advantage of that. Because remember, developers pay for this, not that you want to be developers, but
Yeah, we do.
Development has an impact on the utility, that's why you have SDCs.
Yeah.
So everyone needs to pay their own way, so anyway.
Yeah, well, we can, Kathy, once you pull it back in.
So she knows about SCCs and whether, there's any more that we can add. I think that was brought up at one time, but if we want.
You don't have any way to raise those without taking that to the voters?
Actually, we do, and we have raised them. When the resolution was passed in 2004, it was set that they would increase annually based on the construction CPI. So we have adjusted that. We have raised them. Yeah, we
For Winsong Phase 2, it's paid by the, would there be any other SDCs we can collect from as they're building those homes, or is it done by the developer for kind of the groundwork? For the water sewer?
it's as they connect to the system. So as they're building the units.
Got it.
So it's both.
So it's as, so.
Yeah, so they haven't actually paid them yet, yeah.
Some,
Correct. Yeah.
If we could make a note to discuss that. Where do we discuss that? Would that be a council decision?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
When's the last time we raised it? Do you know?
Well, so the resolution passed in like 04, but it's tied to the annual increase of the construction CPI, which we backdated it. I think we did it about 6-7 months ago. We backdated it. So it was a good chunk of an increase. It wasn't as much as we thought it would be, but it is up to date.
Got it. So we
Yeah.
did just recently.
We did it just recently, yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we asked Ruben and we double checked everything and
Well, to be fair, it wasn't up to market value, now it's reflecting that.
yeah, but there's always an argument that that's why we needed to get rid of the no new fees and taxes thing. That was the red herring. That was always.
That's not the one I used, but anyway.
It was one of them, though, yeah.
it's one of them, yeah.
Okay, so no changes, so we'll go on to tab 12, which is streets, Fund 3.
Tab 12, Fund 3.
Yes, okay. We'll start with the revenue page.
Yeah, I mean, so literally no change from when Sheldon was here.
There's changes in.
Oh, no, I did put more of the utilities director. Sorry, my apologies. More of the utilities director salary in streets.
Overhead and contingency.
Yep. Yep.
So for utility maintenance worker 1, you took like 10,000 down from last year's adopted budget. Did you explain that before? Utility maintenance worker 1?
Yeah, just haven't used it. I mean, look at 22, 23, I think that's 2023. It ebbs and flows. I mean, it's always hard to say, it depends on how many potholes and what happens to the streets. But based off, what we've used so far this year, I was comfortable lowering it to 8,000. And again, if we get 6-9 months down the road, the ratio of sewer to streets to water changes, we can amend the budget.
So how does streets get money? How does the street fund get money? Gas tax.
Yep.
Gas tax.
State gas tax and then the interest we build off of. So yeah.
So we get $80,000 in tax.
No, so we have a beginning fund balance of 80.
Okay.
We're projected to get 113,000 from the state this year.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Just a quick question on allocation of these guys' time. So am I correct in understanding when Sheldon and his crew are doing street work, they're doing it for a couple of days, their time card is then reported as this was street time
Yep.
and then we.
Yes,
allocate
their-
the budget.
Their time card is
It must.
complicated mess. Yeah, it's. Yeah,
Okay. Makes sense.
Right, and there's not really much on the second page. Just the totals, so. Done. Grants is Fund 7, tab 13. No changes on that one.
nope.
Okay, Fund 8, tab 14. Tourism.
Yeah, so the proposed was the placeholder number. Tourism came back after they met, and the second column is what they would like recommended as a budget. As Janice mentioned at the council meeting last night, they're advising about a 3% reduction in what's it called? TLT. Yeah, TLT. And then expenses are, they made some significant changes. The biggest one is $20,000 to Overlook Park, which was in the proposed, but that wasn't sure, but that is the biggest change from this current year's budget. They broke out contract services, which is the service the museum provides to ending the current contractor, which is through November. And then a separate line item for the new contract that would start in December. They wanted those broken out into two separate lines.
This is for, that's for Janice's.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
they want an
yeah.
RFP. done.
Yeah. Correct. That still has the 25,000 for the visitor center. And then they kind of, instead of a lump summing kind of contract marketing services, they broke it out to what they thought were their individual items they wanted to focus on. But it puts everything in operating and zero in reserve or contingency.
Is the general fund, I'm sorry, is the general fund paying for the 25,000 for visitor center staffing?
No, coming out of tourism.
I mean, I'm sure.
Yep.
And the 20,000 for the Overlook Park is coming out of tourism?
Out of tourism, yep. I think everybody's in agreement that restroom is a tourist facility. We have one in town, it's those restrooms, and it should be taken care of by tourism.
70% come.
The TLT,
City gets 30%, they get 30%, all the 70%, they take care of whatever tourists do.
well, 70% just goes straight to the general fund to take care of general city operations, yeah.
Take care of. It was broke down that way to take care of the impact of tourists. They,
I got a copy.
You want the whole bunch?
I'm just gonna leave.
He's not gonna really go through that swamp, but. Hey, it's chaos.
You want to get your own copy of that?
I got her two-sided copy.
Here.
Excellent. Go ahead,
You're good? Did they give Tom symbol? Did you need?
didn't I have a,
No, you had double sided. Here.
oh, the
Do
signal.
you need a whole bunch?
Good, you got a copy too.
You need a whole bunch? I've got, okay. We're good.
Which brings 140.
Thank you, Sherelle.
Thank you.
Sherelle.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Alright.
It's flowing.
Bernard, did you have any more questions?
Yeah, I wanna ask them about investments. Let's go all back. Okay, so
We're on tourism, right?
we are,
Okay.
so I hate pointing this out, because I feel like it might, cause a reduction in general fund, but something is, I feel like it's a miss, Mr. George, in that for the general fund, for revenue, transient room assessment, it says we're going up 20%. But for tourism fund, it says room assessment income, they're going down 3%. In my mind, those should be locked up because they're from the some sort. You get the TRT, 8% goes, so one's going up and one's going up, not. You know why that's happening and what is the right
Well,
answer?
I'm not quite sure where Janice is getting this 67.9. I mean, other than the 3%. I mean, if you're looking at actuals, I mean, our actuals are well over 80,000 for
Tourism?
tourism. Yeah. So I mean, her reduction is more than 3%.
Okay. But again, those need to be in sync. So whatever it is, there's a pot of TRT money. And from, what we had today, and there's a forecast.
Yeah.
And where we're gonna forecast should be the same, both in general fund and tourism. It shouldn't be different. I don't know what that number is, but I just know they need
So
to.
you're talking about transit room tax in Fund 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It shows it going up 20%.
4%. No? Tourist, wait, just kidding.
but I don't see in the alignment between that and our actuals from the prior years either though.
170 going to 203, that sounds about 20%.
No, I'm talking, if I look at the energy room assessment, and I look at actual in 23-24, it's 192. And you're saying that should have a correlating number under tourism, right?
No, well, if you took 192 plus 72 and added that together, then 70% should be the 192 and 30% should be the 72. See what I'm saying?
Oh, I see.
That's how that should be.
So that's that 73s.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, right now they're not in sync and that needs to get fixed. I hope in the direction of,
Yeah.
of our number, not the tourism tiny number. So if you can sit down with Janice and
Yeah.
sort that out, that'd be great.
So I mean, is the 87, is that closer to what you think it should be as opposed to the 67?
Correct. Yes.
And so she just undercutted 20,000. Marianne, did you?
Normally, the finance person figures out how much is gonna come in on transient room tax and gives the tourism fund a number. Then they build their budget based on that number. It is not Janice's responsibility. She has no clue what is coming in from tourism. It's up to the finance person to give her that number. That's why you see a difference. Cause Janice doesn't know how much you're getting in. Or estimating in.
Yep.
Okay, but it seems like Janice would be looking at numbers from the finance office. Not just making numbers up. right?
Yeah. And her and Shante have,
Down?
yes, they have talked. Yes.
So, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I need to follow up with her.
Is this a passable the way it is?
I think if there is any adjustment in the way of it going up, it'll just be moved to contingency. I don't,
Make a motion for the approval to say, we're gonna move through the budget, the change.
Yeah.
That-
yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
And then that marketing, why is the marketing contract going down so much? Contract services marketing, there it goes from 47,000 down to 6.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I thought it was split now.
Yeah, part of it is splitting out. But their exact reasoning, I don't know.
Pretty significant.
Different.
Yeah.
And again, if you go back and look.
we had adopted 16,000, then we moved it to 47,000, and now if you look at the new one, it's closer to 6,000.
And we don't.
So maybe they're not gonna print anything this year.
Well, and if there's gonna be an adjustment in the revenue up, are you sure you want it to go to contingency? Is that where it should go, or should it be reallocated into that contract services marketing?
It could, yeah, I can talk to Janice. I mean, I'm either way.
Okay, so before we move on to the next one, let's go back and ask Kathy, sorry, we had a question while you were gone. Can we have SDCs? Electrical SDCs,
I have no idea.
okay?
There are only certain things you can have SDCs for, and I don't know that electric is one. I'm gonna assume no,
Otherwise we would.
because I think we would already had it. Streets is one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I can check with Roden.
Okay, so that'd be a good.
Yeah, in all of my OMEU or Oregon, the other city utilities that have power, that it's never been brought up. I've never asked, but we've never discussed it in any of our meetings, so I'm assuming it's just not a thing. So, but
Question to ask.
yeah.
So are we done with tourism? Are we satisfied?
I have a question, still formulating it. We can go forward.
Oh, no, go ahead, Abby, go ahead.
Well, we're looking at these two numbers and.
Which
So
numbers?
I'm looking at the 25-26 proposed, total tourism M&S expenses. And then the adopted. That's a difference of $19,175. You've got $11,000 for contract services that changed, you've got $4,000 for contract services admin December through June. $2,000 for Bridge the Gods mural or other project. So that's 17,000. But that big one, that contract services and marketing, that changed by 41,000, so how come that's not reflected on here?
Because the revenue was also adjusted down 19,000. So it's 19,000 less that they have as expenses as well.
Well, so I'm still missing something. That it should be something close to $41,000 less for those two totals.
Am I asking that right? So this is less about, right? So many cuts. Not one cuts. So you're saying, this one, not. That is one last week's meeting, the 4,000.
Right, so you got 11,000, 4,000, and 2,000, that's 17,000. And then you've got 17,000. Right, that's. Okay.
Yeah.
2,000 total.
This.
And so it's going to. That's the difference between these two numbers is not the difference between these, everything else added up.
It's the same, so these combined differences will should equal to that one.
Go ahead, Megan.
So this number right here doesn't
Why
only
is it
apply to this
that-
column.
The tourism is not paying for part of the audit.
But you're saying
When
this
we have to
column
audit their
to
books
this total number.
for their
So the
expenditure.
20,000 up here.
Because tourism funds are only supposed to be paid towards tourism related items. An audit is not a tourism item.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
The state says otherwise.
But you're saying,
For now.
you're saying that
So-
this.
Well, that is
right
an
here is
interesting
not
question.
standalone.
So
And the 20,000 here.
you're very confident, we asked for auditor.
5,000 from here.
Can we charge the tourism fund, their allocation for audit services? They would say no.
Increase these.
What they would say, I don't know, but we went back after last year's budget, Janice and I, in our interpretation of what could be spent on tourism funds, an audit was not an approved item. It's for tourism functions. An audit is part of the general administration of the city.
We can go on, I think.
Well,
I mean,
it's kind of unusual. It makes sense to me, like, it is part of the operation, but you can't have tourism fund if it's not being audited, right? I mean,
Especially tourism, which there's a lot of shenanigans going on, we all know, with short-term rental and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of overhead. And then, again, you need to audit the books, you know, this is a real burden, so, I don't know. It makes me wanna change the law, that's what the law says, we need to change the darn law.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, and it's a hot topic on what is considered tourism facility or not.
So in this, is it, I don't see where it's reflected, because I know we pay the state collects our short-term rental,
Yep,
right? And we pay a fee for that.
yep.
Is it reflected?
Nope, they just take it off the top. We don't see it.
So this is what we get after the fees taken.
Yes, and it's like on our busy quarters, well, we'll get 125 grand. They take $120. Like, it is nothing.
They're very efficient.
I don't think they do a super great job in catching all the Airbnbs, but the vast majority of the money we get is from the hotels, which know what they're doing. And so the fee we get for the state, or the fee we pay for the state handling it all, is very minimal.
Do we ever turn in people that we know are Airbnbs to them?
We try to, yes. We have told them. Whether they do anything about it is a
And
whole,
nothing has happened.
yeah. Which is why we want to look at bringing it back in-house.
That's come up with the LOC converses a lot about software that you can have that's actually crawling the web. You know,
Yep.
just to look
Yep.
for short-term rentals, is that, yeah. Is we looked at doing something like that to try to. capture
Well,
that?
I want to bring it back in. If we, assuming the food, prepared food and beverage tax passes, we'll need to do that audit and tax process in-house. We might as well bring the TLTs back in-house and put that assigned to one staff member. So and then at that point, we look at some software management.
'Cause I mean, it's not just the revenue, but it's also about housing.
Yeah, code enforcement. Yeah,
Right,
Yep.
and making sure that people aren't renting these things out,
correct.
us being aware.
Okay, are we good? Did you get it straightened out? You good there?
Yes.
Alright, good. Thank you, Cheryl, for helping her understand that. Okay. Tab 15 or fund 17 and 25. No changes were made. That's the
Nope.
cemetery fund, and not really much we can. Not really much we can do. With that one, so. Any questions? Alright, so next one is the water fund, which is Fund 21 or tab 16. Again, not too often any changes.
No, slight, just because the formula changed or the percentage tweaked slightly with other departments moving around, the admin fee changed, but nothing within the water fund changed, except for use of property. Sorry, I always forget that one. Use of property was increased.
How come the health insurance went up?
I went back and double checked my numbers, and there were a couple of them where I forgot to add in the utilities director. Yeah,
Originally, you didn't.
Correct. Yeah, I forgot to add the increase with that portion of the insurance being covered. Yeah, so there was that minor adjustment.
Any questions on that page? Next page. The only thing I saw was a change in contingency and water capital project personnel experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you did change.
I accidentally copy and pasted the actuals into the proposed, and it was just an accident on my part. So I went back to our standard, what we usually put in as the placeholder budget. Of wages of 2,000, and then the formula is based off of that. As you'll see, the wages was 793, I copied the wrong, column. So the actuals are 793. We usually budget 2,000.
Okay, any questions on that? Bernard?
So, just to review, wanting to pay, did I hear you correctly that there was a possibility that the water loss in the water fund, so, water pulled out of the wells. And then you delta that from water sales.
Yep.
Is it, did I hear 50%?
When we did the rough math, it came at 50%. We are sending it to engineers to double check. Yeah, we all thought that was super high, given the improvement we just completed. Correct, yeah.
And prior to this change, what were you estimating water loss at before?
I think it was at 50 at that point. But I'd have to double check the
Before
number.
we made the improvements.
The major improvements, yeah.
And then what did it drop down to after we did those?
I'd have to look, I don't know.
I think I asked Gordon that once, he said we went to like 17, 19%, it was-
That would sound more right, yeah.
But, yeah, that caught my attention.
Yeah, and we're looking into it. I don't, yeah, we're all stumped.
Sure.
Does this, how old are the meters in the ground and are they tested? Because that's a huge potential for. costs.
No, we really don't have that system in place. They're there until they die. We'll go out and do a read and go, oh crap, it stopped working, and then we'll replace them. So that program does not exist. So yes, it could be bad meters.
So the Utilities director could get that program.
Yep.
going.
Yep.
Hence,
Yeah.
hence the squawking online that people were getting charged and didn't know that their meters were broken and everybody, because they just replaced several, right?
Yes, they are replacing some, yes.
So you're saying that they're just inaccurate or they?
So over time, meters start losing, they just don't work. as
Yep.
well as they're supposed to. They start. No, meters.
So it'd be underreporting.
Yep.
potentially.
Correct. It could be a huge.
It could, yeah.
If your meters are more than 15 years old.
Oh, I see. It's not actually water loss.
That's why we-
Reported for
we know.
billing.
For-
It looks like it's 50%.
It could be, but you don't know that if you're not testing.
Exactly, yeah.
How do you, okay, I'm just curious, like. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
It's another item.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it caught everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions on water? Butch, are you there? You sure are quiet.
Yeah, I'm here.
Alright. Alright,
I just have it on mute.
alright. Just making sure you didn't fall asleep on
Taking a
us.
nap, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I haven't taken a nap yet.
During all of this excitement.
Okay, tab 17, or fund. 22, 23, 32, 33. There were actually no changes on any of those.
Yeah, it's all pass through money. Yep, and then we got a good chunk of money saved up in the water system improvement as well as the wastewater system improvement.
The only thing I would appreciate is if you would change the wastewater system upgrade fund to be sewer facility project.
Sewer facility project, I thought. She's what it started out to be. Or was the sewer facility upgrade?
Yeah, it was just sewer facility fund, but okay. Well. Figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know what the original name was.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
And then. Tab 18. Fund 56 capital reserve. And I did not see any changes. On the first page. And on the second page, all I saw was that we. Under the sewer. There was. You took away the system vehicle equipment upgrade. Changed the reserve a little.
Yeah, we were going to buy a new pressure washer for the treatment plant, but Jacob's bought one for us as kind of an outgoing present. So, yeah.
Mary Ann.
Where did the 56,000 for the sewer short term come from?
From the sewer reserve.
Okay, you're taking it out of the sewer reserve. I'm not sure that's the question. I don't think you can do that.
Bernard,
So for future budgets, you know what would be helpful for me is we've got our capital reserve and we've got a beginning balance of 1.388. It would be great to have that 1.38 is spread out among these funds. So general fund has 175, you know what I'm saying? Cause that big number of like, it's a big number, but where is it sit
Mhm.
among all the funds in the city?
you mean like a pie chart sort of thing?
Well, just you can have a list, cause I know fire has some there and
Yeah.
streets and everybody has, but you don't know that math. That would be helpful, just a quick reminder, okay.
Yeah.
That's where that 1.4 stand sits.
Yep.
Among all our funds. That's a small request for next year.
Yep.
Well, isn't it kind of broke out? Yes.
It is a little bit, if you go down to expenses, that's kind of where they're cached at. Like streets has a reserve of 85, so that would be their beginning fund balance. Property has 16. Admin has 32, so that's kind of it, but you kind of have to deduce deduce it, yeah.
But it's mostly there.
So, but yes, I can put a pie chart or graph or list or something together, yeah. Just for,
Zero. Then nothing.
correct. Well, no, fire is 3,400, fire memorial is,
Oh, there we go. Sorry, yeah. Okay, that's actually, I don't know, now it's less of an issue. And water has a bigger reserve than electric. Wow.
yep, yeah, water's doing pretty good.
Is it the water one? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it, that's not because of the loan payment, is it?
No, completely separate.
Okay. Yeah,
But you.
yeah,
Always lots of work to do around the city.
yeah.
Yeah. It may seem like a lot, but 400,000 for these major infrastructure systems is not a lot. I mean, if God forbid something happens to one of our water tanks, that there goes our money. I mean, insurance will cover it, but I mean, yeah.
Or you don't, don't buy out of that. You
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah.
Take a loan.
Yeah.
That's why we have debt markets.
Okay, so we have gone through the budget. Any more questions at all? Do we want to discuss?
Well, I think that's been pretty well said by him, so. I disagree with it, but I'm only one person, so. I'd have to call the state budget office.
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 25-26 budget as proposed with the recommendation to increase the tourism revenue. Right,
Yes.
and reallocating the expenses, we have.
Well, I'm gonna say contingency and then tourism needs it, then they can go continue to get.
Reallocate to,
Contingency.
Yeah. And again, and then we can amend the budget if needed. So yeah.
Correct.
Motion, need a second,
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion? Okay.
If you wanna change that verbiage, I didn't, otherwise it just me, I didn't want to, I'm totally fine with it.
Oh, the perfect, well, that's, but that doesn't have, that's not have
Yeah.
anything to do with the budget, being passed.
We're not adopting that, we're adopting, yes, all the powers, so.
Okay, I think we're probably gonna have to roll call because. I don't think it's gonna be clean.
Okay, look at the people that aren't here.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So once this gets passed. Jordan, your interpretation of what happens when the budget gets passed, then that gives you, then you go hire the people that have been approved in the budget, or does that come before council?
No, once council adopts it, that's when it becomes official, and that's when I would start putting out recruitment.
You ready, Jeff?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Happy,
Aye.
Councilmember Seeger,
Aye.
Councilmember Pruitt,
No.
Councilmember Bump,
No.
Mayor Wood. Aye. Budget Committee Member Cramlett. Budget Committee Member Kyleman.
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Batashio.
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Price.
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Miller.
No.
Okay, did I get everybody?
I think so.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes. And 1, 2,
3, no.
3 no's.
So we need 8 to pass. Yeah. So how do we get it to pass?
We need 8 to pass.
Yes, we need 8.
Want to take a short recess and see if we can find somebody else
So we
to?
don't wanna do that again, I'm sorry, if they're not here, then they're not here, that, I mean, that's just not fair for those of us who sat here and did the work and.
Is it reasonable to ask, those who oppose the motion to discuss why they opposed it, and is there a way that we can come together to?
I oppose it because I feel like we are cutting things way too close. I mean, we're doing actuals, we're hiring. 3 new employees. I would feel more comfortable if we didn't do the utility manager. Utilities director, at least until we got a couple of the audits done first. I just feel like we are working with a lot of unknowns.
Is it reasonable for the council, once the approved budget goes to council for adoption, that you guys could adopt it with the caveat, wait 3 months or spend, don't hire the utilities director right away, let's put a pause on it.
Once the budget's approved,
There's
then
nothing
we seem,
there's
then
nothing
we seem to do it.
Yeah. It requires, a budget change, Bernard.
So
Well, wait, hold on, but do you wanna say why? Okay, go ahead.
So I'm less worried about that. Basically because I know what it takes to do hiring. And right now, he's got on his plate to hire a lineman, a working foreman, a code enforcement officer, and a utility service director. That's gonna take a while. To get all those guys hired, you gotta go. We all know this process. I would say we would be lucky if in 6 months if we had that staff up. So 6 months of salaries and benefits is not gonna be charged to this budget. It won't happen. So I feel like this is not conservative giving all the vacancies. Vacancies take a while to fill, and next year it's a much greater concern because you'll have, assuming we have these guys hired, then you can say, all right, is this budget we're adopting reflecting the revenues and the expenses for retaining all these guys, all these people? But this year, we're gonna have to be a big surplus in the expenditures because it's gonna take a while to get everybody hired. That's what I predict.
Hold on, Mary Ann?
Well, the reason I don't want it is I don't feel the numbers are correct. There's no numbers for the current year, so I understand it is a plan, but you can't plan it if you don't know what you got. And we haven't got audits, we don't have numbers that are current. And I don't want the utility director at this point in time. We need the $161 for something else, for other things. At this point. And I realize that we have things we need to do, but you have to prioritize, and I just don't think we have the 161,000. And I do not like using capital reserve for operations. It's not right.
Butch, do you wanna say why you voted no?
I voted no because I don't think we need a utility director. That was part of Jordan's employment contract to begin with. And also the way the hiring of our finance director went, it is his job to interview and select the person, but he has to bring it to council first before they are hired, and that was not done. So until these things are corrected, no.
Courtney?
Well, I'm gonna change my mind on the question. Am I allowed to ask Mary Ann a question?
Yeah.
To expand on what you mean by,
We gotta hash it out.
that's why the numbers are.
We know that some of the money has not been recorded in the current year.
How do we know that?
Because I asked the question, 110,000 is not been recorded. We got the money, but it's not anywhere about. So that brings to mind, how many more is that a problem? If we've got money in an account that we do not know what it is, then that's money that we don't have recorded.
So there's 110,000 that's unaccounted for?
Well, it's not on our actuals. We have it, but it's not on our actuals. So with that in mind, it makes me think, what else isn't on our actuals?
Sure.
But is staff aware of where that money is? And is it accounted for when you,
It's in a holding account,
When you-
yeah.
but you know that it's here? And has it been accounted for in your projections for the proposed budget?
Yes.
I'm getting two messages.
Yeah.
Thinking yes, if you're shaking your head, so I just.
What projection?
But if he knows he has the about $110,000 and he's counting it in general fund revenue, I'm just. You're accounting for the $110,000, and those not reflected in this spreadsheet, we have it, and is it included in your projection?
Yes.
That in the proposed budget?
Yep.
So you know where it's at, it's just not reflected in this actual thing.
Right, yeah.
But it will be by the end of this
Yeah,
year.
the journal entry hasn't happened in Casella, yeah.
There's like a lot of journal entries that haven't been made into Cassell. Does that not require a person to put it in? And
The point I'm just trying to make is he's accounted for it in the budget, even though we don't see it ever recorded in the general budget yet. He's created this budget knowing that it's there. It's just not reflected.
How can you say that when you don't have a beginning fund balance? How do you say that?
I hear you.
You don't have a beginning fund balance, so how can you say that's been collected and it is part of the budget?
I guess I'm trusting the finance officer and the city administrator.
okay, so is there an alternative motion you'd like to make? Well, we have to pass the budget.
Are we supposed to be here tomorrow night?
I don't want to have everybody.
Yeah, and if we need to.
Consensus about maybe the utilities director again?
Without the utility director, would it pass?
I doubt it. I think we'll just get floppy. I think the numbers will just flop. I mean, we can.
Can we try it?
Sure, make the motion.
Make a motion to pass the budget with the
I-
utility director dropped. And then the tourism, can you,
The tourism revenue increase and the expense go to the contingency.
thank you.
I second that.
Okay. Did you hear that, Butch?
Yes, I heard it.
Cassie's getting ready for a roll call.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Happy,
No.
Councilmember Bump,
Yeah.
Councilmember Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Seeger,
No.
Mayor Wood,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Batachio,
No.
Budget Committee Member Cramlett,
You said no.
but
You said no.
Can I change that to yes?
Yeah.
The question gets,
Budget Committee Member Kylie,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Miller,
Yes,
Budget Committee Member Price.
Nay.
So again.
Okay, so yeses is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
And 3 no's.
We did get a new attendee, we assume.
What?
Denise,
With no part of discussion. Yeah. Well, I mean, she can still vote.
they'll vote.
a yes vote meant that you supported the budget without the,
Yes.
so the yes vote meant no director.
Correct.
Okay, okay. So the yes votes were how many?
7.
7,
7. And the no votes were how many?
3.
3.
I mean, you did.
I joined the no. How did we get?
You changed it to.
You were no, and you changed it to a yes.
Can we take the motion? Okay,
The
then
motion-
what did you like to vote?
Okay, Mayor Wood moved to adopt the budget without the utilities director. And then, and with the added, the tourism revenue being increased and the tourism expenses going to contingency.
Okay,
So the second motion is without the utility director was the change.
okay, so, and I support that without the utility director. I think that your community still remembers the discussion and all of the comments that were made about the city dropping the police services last year, and that's left a really big taste in people's mouth. And when you come up and say, okay, now we're gonna hire 3.5 or 4.5 new positions. Gosh, you found money for those. I don't think that's going over well.
Okay, so that one passes.
Did it pass?
No, it didn't pass.
No, it's that fails. I'm sorry, yes, that one fails again, so. And we,
Did we go around and do that?
yes, yes, we did. Yes, Courtney.
Jordan, can you walk us through what the hiring process looks like for a union?
You're a union?
Because isn't that who we're joining or
Utilities.
hiring our utilities peoples?
Utilities probably.
Not,
Director.
Not the.
No, the director, no.
But the lineman, and there was concern that was brought up about the time it would take to actually hire the lineman. And all of that, so what does that process look like?
I've never done it because we've only had the one, but I would assume it'd be the same process as any other any position. We would put the application out for whoever wants to apply. I wouldn't go directly through the union.
We would advertise it with the union.
Yeah, with the union,
Okay,
correct, but
right.
we would, you know, if somebody from Texas wants to move here and become a lineman, sure, yeah, I'm gonna review their application. So it wouldn't be siloed to the union.
Okay, well, we've had a new member add.
Denise.
Yeah, Counselor Emily Baker.
She's out of her class.
So I'm gonna make another motion
Okay.
to approve the proposed, the budget as proposed for 2025-26 budget year with, with with increase of revenue to the tourism fund, move to.
Okay, I'll second that.
On that one.
So we're going back to the original motion, so we're going back to the first motion. The approving the agenda. I mean, approving the budget, sorry.
Yeah.
Approving the budget. With the utilities director and the change, whatever they work out in the tourism fund.
Mhm.
Okay, so we kind of, so she made the motion. He seconded, and now Bernard had a
Yes,
question.
I'd like to maybe make a friendly amendment. What if we said that budget, but the intention, the utility service director is only for the last 6 months of this fiscal year. And I say that for two reasons. One, it saves $80,000 in this budget year. And two, it prioritizes, we're kind of giving him his margin. You're not gonna hire that person first, you're gonna do all these other guys first
Mhm.
and gals. And then, you know, you'll start working on it, so he or she can start, you know, with 6 months remaining. I feel like that's one way to reduce the near-term impact of this. But to, you know, this comment on, like, last year we're cutting police, and this year we're adding positions. Please know, we've made quite a bit of changes in the operation of the city. They would raise the internal payments from all the utilities. We've had new revenue from our citywide revenue has increased substantially. He mentioned that $10 million property assessment increase. So a lot of things have happened in the last 12 months to free up funds to take on these responsibilities. If you talk to me, I am a very fiscal conservative. I do not believe in spending money you don't have. But I'm seeing a budget that is not fiscally unconservative. I feel like it is a proper balance between anticipated revenue and needs of the city. And I just want to say that. So I don't know if you're friendly to that, but I want to make that to try to find to get the yes.
And how do we vote for that?
I feel like the utilities director could be a huge help in recruiting and hiring for the other positions. And spending the time to actually go recruit maybe people who would really be great at this job and be in this.
I think it's hard to supervise people you didn't have a part in hiring, you know, personally.
It's an excellent point, but we're fine. I'm looking for middle ground. I don't.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Courtney.
I mean, you mentioned a friendly amendment being wait 6 months to hire the utilities director. But I would go so far as to say, wait until we have the linemen and the groundmen and the other people that we're hiring before we hire a utilities director. And I understand the way it kept being put out was the utilities director is gonna look for grants and plan the work. That's the way it was presented, and so none of that had to do with hiring. And also, just to reiterate the point that we have a list of things that need to get fixed in town. I can't remember the name of that list.
PUC.
Thank you. And that would keep linemen and all busy in the interim.
We also heard that it was hard to find electric workers, linemen and to come work for the city of Cascade Locks and just
So-
work.
But we only just joins and local, we need 125. That's new to the city.
No,
No, we've,
we've always been part of the union.
Yeah, electric's always been part of the union.
It's always.
Always,
I
yeah,
thought there was a big statement that came out that said,
electrics. I'll explain some things after, but
That's
they've
fine.
always been, yeah.
I'll take the word for it.
Okay, so motion's been made, now we're gonna need another roll call.
Well, can you state the motion again, please? There's too many changes.
The motion was the original motion, voting as the budget as is,
As is?
and with the
Tourism change.
with the tourism workout.
Okay, Councilmember Seeger,
Aye.
Councilmember Bump,
No?
Councilmember Happy,
Aye.
Councilmember Emmerling Baker,
Aye.
Councilmember Pruitt,
No.
Mayor Wood,
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Cramlett,
No,
Budget Committee Member Kyleman,
No,
Budget Committee Member Patashio,
No.
Budget Committee Member Miller,
No,
and Budget Committee Member Price.
I,
Okay, well, that automatically, we already know that that fails. Okay, Bernard, would you like to make a friendly, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, so let me just think through, because I feel like Ms. Kyleman's point is well taken. I think you could make, I think, a management case that getting the electric folks on board prior to getting the utility service director, there's, I think, a rational case for that. But then, let's say, let me just talk through this.
yeah,
Let's say he's efficient in getting the linemen and working, and it's done in 4 months.
who's he? He's a.
Or city manager.
Okay, okay.
And get it done in 4 months. We still have to wait for 6 months to get the utility service director, or now that thing's filled, now let's get in the leader. I mean, you see what I'm asking?
I was
You
gonna,
have concerns?
I mean, in my mind, I was gonna take the 6-month term out of there. Entirely, and just put the caveat that we need the workers before we have management.
Get the workers in for, and as soon as the workers are in, then you're gonna go for hiring the management?
That, I feel like they'd be able to stay busy for a while with that PUC list.
Yeah.
yeah, but that list is separate from what management will be doing. I mean, we have a multi-million-dollar system that does not have a long-term plan in place.
Right, and so, it's my feeling that the list that they have would keep them busy until next budget.
Yeah, and this position would also be doing streets, water,
was it 50%?
sewer, storm drain, property.
Didn't we just raise somebody's salary to play that role for a little while? Then someone's contract so that they can play that managerial position?
I mean,
for a while?
some of the lower level administrative stuff, but not the long-term planning, no. I mean, they would assist with the
Right.
budget, the inventory.
So when we have people that are able to work long-term, then we get a long-term planner. And in the interim, we have short-term work with a short-term leader with a 2-year contract, right? And they can stay busy. And we can look at the budget next year.
Yeah, but his argument is that it's not just for that department.
It's for everything that's not city hall operations or fire.
Due to put that on it, what if he can't have the hires one, but the other one he's having a struggle getting, and if we say, okay, can't
Yeah.
have utilities director, and so you have all these positions, so.
Right, yeah.
It's hard to write a budget.
It is, I agree. Okay, well, then I'll make the motion that we adopt the budget as reviewed this evening with the change that the revenues for the tourism will be adjusted accordingly, and the additions are going to the contingency, the increase. And then the second condition is that the utility services director is for the last 6 months of the fiscal year.
As I-
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded in discussion. Go ahead.
Counselor Emmerling Baker has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Cheryl. Yeah.
Next June.
Oh, gosh, I just liked it.
No, that'd be January. It'd be January.
Am I speaking? I wanted to,
Not
Oh, no.
yet. Cheryl.
So with not spending in 6 months, are you saying that we reduce the budgeted amount by 50%? Or are you
Yes,
saying just let that be a budget savings?
no, that would reduce the budget in half for that, the salary and benefits for that position would be reduced to half across all the funds.
And then where would you like that adjusted revenue? Getting
Straight
right
to
down.
contingency. Good question, but yes, goes contingency.
Denise. We can't hear you, you're on mute.
thank you. You heard my point before that I like the utilities director and I would concede to the 6 month. If that's what this council wishes, I would just like two sentences briefly about the change in the tourism budget. Just,
Okay, we had a discussion that the tourism income might not be reflected accurately and that there's probably about $20,000 and that they would like the Jordan and Chantel and Janice to go through, and if there is a $20,000 difference, to reflect that in the budget and put it in contingency. That's
Okay.
all.
thank you on that. But so yes, I think possibly waiting the 6 months is a good idea because it's clear. Sure, I'd like to get them as soon as possible, but for budgeting purposes, 6 months is clearer than after we hired the others.
All right, thank you. Okay, so roll call, please.
Councilmember Bump,
Make it very tough.
No.
All very.
It's a compromise.
It's a compromise on one part.
Understand that.
Right, I'll go for
Councilmember Emmerling Baker,
I,
Councilmember Happy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Seaguard,
Aye.
Mayor Wood. Aye. Budget Committee Member Batashio,
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Cramlett,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Kyleman,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Miller,
No,
Budget Committee Member Price,
No.
Yay, we have a passed budget. You want to say what the numbers are? I think it's what, now it'd be 9 to
Yep.
2, right?
yes.
All right. Thank
So,
you, everyone.
Committee,
Well,
council, just be aware when you're presented this, it won't match these, it'll be changed with these directions, so don't freak out when you see it.
what directions? What?
Well, we're taking 50% of the director fee, putting it into contingency, so these columns will not be the same.
You're gonna give us a change.
Oh, yes, yeah, just don't freak out when you see it.
Oh, okay. So we need to leave it open just in case there's any big errors that come.
I don't think so, no, that can be discussed in council.
Okay. You want to let the budget open in case it was a super serious.
That's always done.
He says to close it.
Well, that's not what we always did, but that's okay.
Because if you have an issue, then you can just reconstitute the meeting.
Yeah,
Really.
I'm good either way, I
Okay, so
don't.
we'll just continue it and thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the compromise. I appreciate that.
That's it.
We're done. No, not tomorrow, no next week.